Hey y'all, welcome to my project on events that shaped American history. Obviously, we're not going to cover all 20, just hit some that interested me the most. So the first of these is witchcraft in Salem. This began in spring 1692 in Salem, Massachusetts. So at the time, we had the Puritan group, and they sought to purify the Church of England. They were a very strict religious community, and they had a strong belief in the devil and witchcraft. Also, if your high school English teacher ever made you read The Crucible, you'll kind of understand a little bit more about this. But anyway, so the initial accusations began when these two young girls who were 9 and 11 started acting weird and they were claiming to be possessed. Also, these two girls, one was the daughter of a Puritan preacher and one was the niece of one. So at the time, there's also economic and social divisions that existed in the community, so this just adds even more to the hysteria. There were over 200 people who were accused of practicing witchcraft, and 2 of them were actually executed. Mostly all of the accounts in court and in trials were accounts of dreams and visions because you can't see the supernatural. So eventually public skepticism grew, and Governor Phipps, who was the governor at the time, stopped the trials and declared a day of fasting and soul-searching later. But even though this might not seem like it's super relevant today, it's a good way to look at the dangers of mass hysteria, and it also led to changes in legal procedures and protections. Now we're going to talk about the Louisiana Purchase. We have a few more slides to go. Okay, so the Louisiana Purchase was made in 1803 by Thomas Jefferson, and it more than doubled the size of the United States. So at the time of purchase, this area was controlled by France, and it was sold by Napoleon. So the initial objective of Thomas Jefferson was to purchase New Orleans and parts of Florida. He was just going to do a little bit. He was not planning on France offering up this huge stretch of land. But they offered the entire territory to him for $15 million. That is 820,000 square miles, around 4 cents an acre. And just a fun fact, that's 13 times cheaper than Beyonce and Jay-Z's house, which is $200 million. Okay, so Jefferson had some questions that he had to figure out with himself. Was he going to strictly interpret the Constitution as is, or was he going to double the size of the United States? Eventually, he did justify the purchase on April 30th, 1803. Following the Louisiana Purchase, we have the Lewis and Clark Expedition, and trade was also boosted because the United States now had control of the Mississippi River in New Orleans. However, it did displace Native Americans, and it brought up tensions regarding the extension of slavery into new territories. Now we're going to talk about the Battle of Bull Run, which is the first major land battle of the Civil War. Also, you might hear it called as the First Battle of Manassas or something else, which we'll cover later. But the Battle of Bull Run took place on July 21st, 1861. This was the day after the attack on Fort Sumter, so both sides are feeling eager and excited to prove their strength and show that they're the best. So the Union planned a surprise attack to capture the Confederate capital at Richmond, and obviously the Confederates had to defend their capital. This is underneath the Confederates, we have Thomas J. Jackson, and you also hear him called Stonewall Jackson, and he earned his name throughout the war, but especially during this particular battle, and he's known for his famous nickname in steadfast defense. So the Union was so confident that they were going to win that people came and wore opera glasses and packed sandwiches. So they basically had a picnic, worst picnic ever. And sometimes this is why it's called the picnic battle. So obviously these people did not know what was to come. They thought it was going to be a quick and easy end to the war that had already been going on for 3 months. However, things did take a turn. So later in the day, under General Johnston, they bring in new, fresh Confederate troops. This leaves the Union discombobulated, and they chaotically retreat back to their capital in Washington, D.C. For them, this highlighted the need for better training and organization. For the Confederates, this boosted their confidence in their military capabilities since they won. For all parties, though, the realization of the long and brutal war emerged. It sets the stage for the remainder of the Civil War.